Gorky Film Studio, 1961. Second Artistic Association, under the direction of Lukov, Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol. Evenings on a farm near Dikanka, a night before Christmas. Written and directed by Alexander Rao. Director of Photography, Surensky. Production designer, Dikhtyar. Director, Losev. Music by Filipenko.
The following is a paid advertisement. Really? A paid advertisement? Wait, the B-Movie Cast got paid? Yes, the following is a paid advertisement. This episode of the B-Movie Cast is brought to you by the estate planning services of Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law. Remember, when the zombie apocalypse comes, things will move pretty fast.
The body should be disposed of at once, preferably by cremation.
Well, how long after death, then, does the body become reactivated?
It's only a matter of minutes.
Minutes? Well, that doesn't give people time to make any arrangements.
Oh, you're right. It doesn't give them time to make funeral arrangements. The bodies must be carried to the street and burned. They must be burned immediately. Soak them with gasoline and burn them. The bereaved will have to forego the dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh and dangerous.
So don't leave your estate planning needs until the last minute, because you don't know when that last minute could come. Call Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law, at 859-351-2294. That's 859-351-2294. Remember, when you go, you don't want people saying,
"Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up."
Twyla Minear Brooks, attorney at law, is licensed for practice in the state of Kentucky. Consult your local attorney for matters outside of the state of Kentucky.
Command mark. The time will be running at X minus 20 seconds. Mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire.
Spawned by the continuing decline and fall of society as we know it, and created on the second-floor spare-bedroom studio in the Piedmont of South Carolina. Podcasting on a shoestring budget and changing the world one freak at a time. It's the B-Movie Cast with your host, Vince Rotolo.
From coast to coast and worldwide via the internet, this is the B-Movie Cast, the podcast of unusual film and television.
Hi guys, and welcome back to the B-Movie Clubhouse for episode 507 of the B-Movie Cast. Before I go any farther, I want to get our contact information out of the way. We love hearing from all of you, so we have a feedback segment devoted to your comments and suggestions, and this is how you can contact us. Option 1, pick up your phone and dial 888-936-0808. This is a toll-free number and a very easy way to leave a voice message. Option 2, you can make your own MP3 file and send it in to bmoviecast@gmail.com. Or use your smartphone voice software and record a call, then just send that in as an attachment instead. Or option 3, if you're not into talking, you can just shoot us an email to bmoviecast@gmail.com. Our website is bmoviecast.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast. It's free, and there you can join us on the Facebook B-Moviecast fan page and letterbox. Also, you can play the contest by sending in your answer by email to bmoviecast@gmail.com with contest in the subject line. And check out the links while you're there, or buy a t-shirt. I currently have smalls to 4X's. If you want to help us financially, there's a donation box you can click on as a supporter on the Lugosi, Karloff, Agar, and the infamous Xanadu level through PayPal. Also, the easiest way to donate is to click on the Amazon bar on the right side of our homepage. This Amazon link will take you to Amazon.com to make your purchase. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can still log into your personal accounts when you get there. It's completely private, so think about us before you buy online. We have our co-host from Lexington, Kentucky, author, editor, screenwriter, film producer, Nic Brown. He has a new website, and it is authornicbrown.com. That's AUTHORNICBROWN.com. He's the author of the Werewolf for Hire series starting with Blood Curse. He's also selling a series of books in collaboration with his wife, Fiona Young Brown, called the B-Movie Cookbooks. All of these are available on Amazon. He has produced 3 movies. The first 2 are Wretch and Loss Prevention, both of which could be ordered on Blu-ray or DVD through Amazon. And he is also the producer of the award-winning film Fall of Usher, which is now available for purchase or rental on iTunes and Amazon streaming. Our special guest today is Matt Kowalski. He's a professor of history at both Temple University and Delaware County Community College. His teaching research interests are in the fields of modern Russian and Central East European cultural history, with a concentration on the Cold War and late socialism. His focus mainly revolves around the interplay of film, sport, and consumer culture, food, drink, etc., and society. He's authored 5 chapters of a new edition of the Global Studies textbook published by Kendall Hunt. The name of that is Aspirations and Dissonance, Readings in History, Religion, and Global Affairs. He's also recently had a chapter on Weimar horror films and the Great War, published in the new WW Reader. What's a WW Reader, by the way?
World War I.
Ah, okay. When not doing all that, he's trying to save money for his wedding to Marie. Hi, Marie. And watching too many genre films from too many countries, and watching his 2 main footy clubs, Liverpool FC and Central Red Army Moscow, play. Oh, and Matt, Christos Rostajcie.
Merry Christmas to you, Mary. And s Novim Godom.
Today's movie is a Matt pick. Today's movie is the 1961 Russian comedy fantasy film called The Night Before Christmas, also known as Evenings on a Farm Near Dikanka. Did I say that right, Matt?
That was good. That is pretty good, Mary.
Woo! Woohoo! It's also a rather convoluted love story. This is the last of our series of Christmas movies. This year, well, no, it would be the first of the series of this year. It's the last of the series from last year.
So wait, so technically we're having first Christmas in 2023?
Yes.
Man, it just goes to my thought about the fact that, man, Russia's weird.
Very true.
Very true. This is just carrying on from the screenshot that I posted on Instagram and Facebook that I took from this movie.
We will talk about Russian Orthodox Satan at some length tonight.
Yeah, and we might even talk about him in relation to this movie.
Yeah.
Because, I do have Satan in my pocket. I just want to make sure everybody knows that right now.
I believe that. He's on your shoulder, too, talking to you all the time.
Oh, Mary, I could say something, but this is a polite podcast, so I won't.
Thank you. And thank you, Matt, for yet another bizarre Russian fairy tale.
Oh, yeah, for sure. This was definitely one I wouldn't have watched if you hadn't suggested it for the cast.
True.
You're welcome, guys. I was looking for, something a little bit different. Originally, there's an East German Christmas film out there, but unfortunately, as far as I can ascertain, there's no version available with English subs. So I figured, especially considering recent events in Ukraine,
yes,
I don't give this one a whirl.
Yes.
Because this is even though it's a Russian language film, it's a definitively Ukrainian film.
Yes.
We can all agree upon that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, it's based on Christmas Eve, the first story in the second volume of Nikolai Gogol's 1832 collection, Evenings on a Farm Near Dikanka. and that is in the Ukraine, Little Russia, because Gogol was born and raised there.
Yeah, he was Ukrainian, and this is very much, there's kind of two periods of Gogol. There's young Ukrainian Gogol, then there's late, angry, Russian, kind of self-hating Ukrainian Gogol. This is very much in that early Ukrainian folky period of Gogol. Just before he wrote Taras Bulba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't feel a lot of self-hate in this movie.
No.
So.
There's no. It's very much a celebration of all things Ukrainian. There is a little bit of commentary, and we'll maybe get to that like later on in the movie, at least in terms of the relationship between Russia and Ukraine. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I did see a bunch of stuff on, I forget what website it was now, but it was, he'd written a lot of letters to his parents, his mother, back in Ukraine when he was living in Moscow, when he was doing a lot of his writing, and he was asking her about like all kinds of folklore and peasant stuff. I guess he had been gone for so long that he didn't quite remember all of it, so he was constantly writing her letters saying, send me colorful stories about, the peasants and what the clergy was wearing and what their clothes looked like. And I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, wouldn't he remember that from when he was a kid? But I guess not.
Well, he was lower gentry, so the reciprocators, or incubators of, I guess, what you would call Ukrainian culture, and indeed the Ukrainian language, was the peasantry. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that was, I guess, him sort of conscripting his mom to do ethnographic work for him. Okay. What is going on? What's going on in the countryside? What's the feel and the rhythm of it? Because literally up until the 20th century, Ukrainian as a language was a rural language. Like, there's cities in Ukraine. No one spoke Ukrainian.
What did they speak?
Russian, Yiddish, if you were Jewish. The western part of the country, Polish, right? A decent portion of the country was under Polish rule for a long time.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense based on where it was.
Yeah.
Or where it is. Rephrase that, it's still there.
Yes.
So now I am very curious, because you said there was a significant Jewish population in Ukraine, and we know that is the case today also. But I'm just curious, how did that play out under Soviet rule, or is that something we want to talk about in the movie or later in the podcast? Because
you have to remember the Soviet Union existed for 70 years.
Yeah.
And in those 70 years, policy changed, sometimes dramatically. So the position of Jews in not just Soviet Ukraine, but in the Soviet Union would fluctuate from a protected minority with like really banging, social services or, affirmative action policies.
Okay.
To really not so thinly veiled official anti-Semitism.
Oh, and I was kind of curious because, I know we've talked about, like, especially with the last film and the one before that, I think it was the VIY one. Yeah, we talked about the fact that, how even the film industry was doing these, the way they were portraying religion was, almost, well, it wasn't almost, it was mocking it in a lot of ways and trying to make it look bad. And I was curious how that would play out for the Jewish population, because that's an ethnicity that, it's very central to being, Jewish. It's a religion, but it's also, they will say, well, I'm Jewish as a person, not just as a religious affiliation.
Yeah, usually when Judaism, the faith was portrayed in Soviet films. It was in the same sort of mocking, anti-clerical tone. But I would argue that necessarily isn't a sign of, latent anti-Semitism, because in the Soviet context, to be Jewish it was defined as an ethnic group.
Yeah.
So Jews, Ukrainians, except Uzbeks were all ethnic groups. So in terms of the official ascribing of an identity, religion didn't enter into it so much.
Okay.
But you always had this tension because let's say you were a Ukrainian Jew. You live in Ukraine, maybe some of your in-laws are Ukrainian, your neighbors are Ukrainian. On your passport, though, it would still have stamped Jewish as opposed to Ukrainian.
Yeah,
Really?
and that's kind of where I was going with this, because I was curious how, and if they were treating it as an ethnicity more than a religious affiliation, I could definitely see how they'd have much more protection, and I guess it was whichever way the wind was blowing as to who was, running the party.
The late Stalin period is like a fascinating, case study for this, because you have the anti-cosmopolitan campaign, which is effectively an official, thinly veiled anti-Semitic campaign. Yet at the same time, the Soviets were like, Jews are an ethnicity. Ethnicities need homelands. Where can we put Jews? Israel's too pro-American. That's bad. And they set up this weird Jewish autonomous zone out in Siberia.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Good place
Jewish homeland in Siberia. And then this actually leads to an intensification of the anti-cosmopolitan campaign, because the party can't figure out why Jews don't want to go to frickin' Siberia.
Yeah, gee, why don't people want to go? Gee, why is that, I wonder?
Yeah, there still is this Jewish autonomous oblast out in, like, the Russian Far East.
Okay.
Wow.
And by the way, I'm not sure how we ended up going. I apologize. This was completely, and Nick is interested in this. Let's go down this rabbit hole thing.
That's fine. You'd be a really good student of mine, because you obviously know how to press my button.
Hey, I like to press your
land, and then it's like, oh damn, class is almost over. We didn't address anything.
And see, I would be popular with the other students, because then they'd be like, oh, thank God, we didn't even talk about the stuff we were supposed to talk about.
And we didn't study it.
With those readings, thanks, Nick.
Hey.
I personally like the devil in this one.
It was such an interesting devil.
Well, let's talk about that now, because when I was watching the film, and I have to be honest, this is my first rewatch of this since I was a college student.
Oh, okay. So it's been a while.
I got taught Russian by a dear, lovely man, Yuri Profesky, at LaSalle University back in the early aughts. And he was Ukrainian. And I think it had to be my senior year. He taught a class, it's an upper level Russian class, Russian through cinema. And really it was Russian through Russified Ukrainian cinema. So when it was holiday time, he showed this. So I hadn't seen this in years. But one of the things that, struck me while I was watching the film was, and part of this is because I'm doing research. I'm not into Russian Satanism. I'm just going to say that now. But I'm doing research for a project that has nothing to do with this movie, that actually in some way, shape, or form involves the Orthodox conception of the devil.
Interesting. So
yeah, well, we can talk more about that maybe after the podcast.
Does it have to do with the chort? Does it have to do with the chort?
With the what, Mary?
CHORT.
Oh, with the church.
Church. That's what isn't that their devil?
Yes, but more in regards to how, because my father, his side of the family was, mixed Russian Ukrainian, and so obviously we did the Orthodox holidays and stuff like that. But I was raised, Polish Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Our version of Satan is not like the Orthodox version of Satan.
Yeah.
Catholic Satan's lazy. No, for real. It gives people mad freaking leeway. It's like original sin is a thing. You have a choice. If you go to hell, you effed up. That's on you. Satan didn't have to come before you and trick you up.
Yeah.
Much like, and maybe this is why, there's been this weird turnover with some far-right evangelicals in this country into Russian Orthodoxy. The sort of evangelical Protestant and Orthodox version of Satan are remarkably similar. Satan is not lazy. Satan is active as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always trying to get up and sort of trick you around. And in addition to that, too, the Orthodox version, which probably, I was talking to a friend of mine who's Greek, and she was like, oh, our Satan's sort of like that. So maybe some of this also is coming in from, traditional Slavic paganism and their notions into all this. But not only is Orthodox Satan proactive, he's a trickster, he's also kind of mad petty.
Yeah.
Satan comes down to this one horse Cossack village in southeastern Ukraine to screw with a guy and a community because he's pissed off dude paints icons.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Catholic Satan don't care about that. He's got other things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's busy. And then you got Eastern Kentucky Satan that's always sitting around challenging people to fiddle contests.
Well, I that's weird you say that, though, because in doing some of my own research and thinking again about the film, it's like the only equivalent is sort of revivalist American Protestantism.
Yeah, that's, it got me thinking about the way you described it got me thinking about the Charlie Daniels Band song, The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's a very similar, in my opinion at least, depiction of Satan to this one.
But see, in my church when I was growing up, it was more like the Catholic version, where he just, if you do something bad, you're going to go to hell, but he's not going to cause it. That
might also because it's the Orthodox Church in the diaspora. Okay. Because I guess I can throw out some of what I'm researching in Russia, especially now again today.
Mm-hmm.
This image of the active Satan, because remember, the Russian Orthodox Church is the Russian Church.
Yes.
So Satan is everywhere. Satan is active. Satan is the enemy of the church. But by default, then, Satan is the enemy of Russia.
Oh.
And Satan is everywhere, tempting you to do bad things, to your motherland, etc., etc.
Oh. Okay.
So that your experience might be, again, the Russian, it's the Orthodox Church outside of the motherland.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Americanized version, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because mine wasn't a trickster. This guy's like a little rascal. He's always just doing stuff.
Try to steal the moon.
Well, yeah.
Well, he did steal the moon, but
he stole the moon.
But he just wasn't very good at hanging on to it. But that's neither here nor there.
Well,
by the way, it was interesting to me that the moon was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Well, it's bright and shiny. It has to be hot.
It has to be hot. That's very logical.
That's.
If you're going back to the days when because this was set, I'm going to guess in the 19th century.
Yeah,
well, he wrote it in 1830 something, didn't he?
Okay, yeah. So that'd be the 19th century. Okay, so.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, I tell you what. Before we go on talking about Satan,
yes,
Do we want to do the contest, Barry?
Yes, because I have some questions that you guys have to answer, and we better do the contest first.
Yes, we'd better. Because it just occurred to me, we're going to finish the whole movie, and then you're going to be like, we forgot to do the contest. And, that'll suck.
Yeah, that would sound like that. Okay. Let's just do the contest. The movie was Rare Exports from 2010. Woohoo!
Yes.
I love that movie.
Because I was in my Christmas spirit.
Yes, I really love that movie.
You guys introduced me to that film's existence. Or at least I'm fairly certain that's the case.
Yay!
Yeah, I love that. That's one of Fiona and I have some staple movies that we watch every year, and we actually decided this year was rough because Fiona's family came over. It was her mom and dad, and we kind of split our Christmas movies up into, hey, let's watch let's watch Christmas in Connecticut, and then hey, let's watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, and both with equal glee and fervor. And, this year I did not get my full dose of all the Christmas horror movies that I usually watch.
Okay.
Because, I let it slide up until all of a sudden Fiona's parents were coming over in a day or two, and I didn't want to do like a 8-hour marathon of Christmas horror movies. Even I have my limits. So, but we watched that one with Fiona's family when they came over.
Wow!
And her parents were distinctly unimpressed.
Oh,
which disappointed both of us because we love that film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, our first prize today has been donated by Patrick Kelly.
Yay!
Yay! Unfortunately, this is the last movie Patrick's going to donate to the B-Movie Cast. I can't thank you enough for all the years of films you've donated to us. Hopefully, we'll still be hearing you through feedback. So,
for sure.
We'll still be thinking about you, Patrick.
Yeah, for sure. And, man, seriously, thank you, Patrick,
Yes.
because you really went above and beyond donating movies and prizes to the B-Movie Cast.
True.
And, you made me look really bad whenever I'm too cheap to do it.
Yay!
So yeah, Mary will forever love you for that. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, this last one is a DVD of the movie Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh.
Patrick says this 1994 film may be the Frankenstein adaptation that is the truest to the original novel. It was produced by Francis Ford Coppola and was directed by Kenneth Branagh, who also plays Victor Frankenstein. Robert De Niro portrays the monster creation of Herr Frankenstein. It also stars Tom Hulce, Helena Bonham Carter, Ian Holmes, and John Cleese. The script was written by Frank Darabont, who went on to direct The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, and The Mist. Woohoo! So, the winner of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is
Lord Byron.
Blake McCurdy. So congratulations, Blake.
Wow, I love that Mary totally ignored me there.
Yeah.
I was having trouble with my bucket of balls.
Were you having trouble with your balls, Mary?
Somebody's going to clip that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So congratulations, Blake. We will be sending that out shortly. Our second prize is a Santito surprise package, and thank you so much, Santito, because he is going to now start sending his surprise packages again.
Yay!
Yay! I have no idea what's going to be in it, so it's going to be a big surprise to us as well as to you. Again, take a picture and send it to us so we can post it, because we're always interested in what it's going to be. And, okay, that Santito surprise package is going to Scott Wirtz.
Right.
The San Fernando Valley, I think. Did I get that messed up? Who knows?
I don't know, Mary. Did you?
Probably.
Did you?
Did you? Our third prize has been donated by Brenda McNeil, and it's Hi, Brenda. It's the 1983 American war comedy film To Be or Not to Be.
Oh, I love that film.
It was directed by Alan Johnson and produced by Mel Brooks. It stars Mel Brooks, Anne Bancroft, Tim Matheson, Charles Durning, Christopher Lloyd, and Jose Ferrer. So, that prize goes to Nick Stumpf.
Hey! My boy Nick.
Yes. So, congratulations. And that's the end of the prizes.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I'm like half with it today.
Which half?
Not the good half. I'm fighting a sinus infection, so my brain's not working. My head's all stuffed up.
Well, we still love you, Mary.
I know. Well, that's a good thing. So let's get on with the movie. And you guys have to answer some questions for me.
Oh, she says this like I'm going to be able to answer any of the questions. But okay, sure. We'll go with that, Mary.
Well, the first one's two-part. Vakula's mother was Saloka, right?
Yes.
Okay. Was she a witch?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was a witch, and I think she was also kind of the town bicycle, if you know what I mean.
Yes, you are also correct there, yeah.
So she might, okay, she would have to be his mother, but just don't know who the father might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
might
I'm going to say it was Chuck because they had the same haircut, but that's beside the point.
Well, and there's something really sort of subversive there too, because it's like he's the blacksmith, painter of icons, religious guy. His mother is the town witch, who apparently is sleeping with everyone in town, including supernatural forces.
Yeah, which, I'm going to say she gets around, dudes.
Yeah.
Was she sleeping with them, or was she just messing with them, just flirting with them?
I think
that's open to interpretation.
Okay. Because I wasn't really sure about that one. It seemed kind of... Well, they called her a real woman. Her looks were unexceptional, but her manner was alluring. Ooh.
Okay.
And why was she stealing stars?
She was making a potion with them.
Yeah, that's what witches do, Mary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, witches do bad things, Mary. Come on.
Okay.
Get with the program.
Okay.
See, okay, wait a minute. I just said that. I'm going to take it back because I have some friends that are witches and they don't do bad things. So, yeah, I'm going to I'm immediately walking that one back.
Oh,
okay. Traditional depictions of witches.
Okay.
But, yeah, I know a few people who identify...
I could see you walking back the way they do in this movie a lot, where they rewind things.
Yeah. Well, that's true. They do a lot of rewinding stuff in this.
So I could see you walking backwards, and the dust is going back, settling into the ground again. And
well, okay. Here's the thing: you're doing a movie about fantasy with witchcraft, magic, and the devil.
Yes.
And honestly, when you make things go in reverse, it looks kind of magical. I'm not kidding. That's a cheap way to do magic.
Well,
it's like, oh, look, you can jump really high backwards.
True.
You can gather the snow, and they do this a bunch of times, like with the snow.
Yeah.
The devil just gathers the snow up and covers himself.
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty cool. I give high kudos to the Russian film studio that did this, just because they were very creative with
a lower budget
with their effects.
Yes.
And that would be Gorky Films. Which,
thank you.
Yeah, was the Soviet Union's go-to place for fantasy and sort of, folk films in the 50s and the 60s.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, and this would definitely be classified as fantasy.
Yes. So why did they dub some of the characters? There were like 3 characters.
What version did you watch, Mary?
I don't know. Well, I couldn't tell. I just read that they were dubbed.
I was going to say, I never heard a bit of English in that.
Well, no, I mean, they were dubbed in Russian.
Wait, what?
I mean, they were talking, but somebody else's voice was coming out.
That happens a lot, and not just in, Soviet cinema. I mean, geez, if you're familiar with how Hammer treated a lot of their actresses over the years, studios, for some reason, they bring in an actor or actress, either because of the way they look or something. They hear them speak. They say, no, 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 no. And they throw someone else's voice onto them. So I'm not, totally shocked about that. I did not read that, though.
Yeah.
Remember, Mary, that's the whole plot of Singing in the Rain.
Really?
Yeah. Because that's the thing. A silent film actress who was a big star.
Oh, that's true.
When she had to do the musical, her voice was awful.
Yeah.
And so they brought in the girl that would be Gene Kelly's love interest.
Okay.
And then they made Xanadu.
Well, even the first Bond film, I mean, Ursula Andress, that isn't her voice.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's a West German actress, Van der Zell. That's not her voice.
Yeah. Well, the blacksmith is one of the people that was dubbed.
Okay.
But I guess he never went on to do much after this anyway.
No, this is one of his few credits, and the only thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah. He did some bit parts in films and some TV movies in the 70s and 80s, but he ended up being a construction worker.
Well, I'm going to say, other than his haircut, he was a pretty stonking good-looking man.
Oh.
And then his haircut would show up.
Well, yeah.
And I was like, what's going on with this haircut, man?
Well, you see the Cossacks, in those later scenes, the older Cossacks had pretty much that same haircut, only they let the top grow and it was in a ponytail.
Yeah, you shave it and braid it.
Yeah, so maybe
and
that's
all
like the
have
first
mustaches like I do.
What?
And they all have mustaches like I do.
Oh, yes, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
they
true.
got the bushy handlebar going on, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The sorcerer was dubbed too.
Arguably my favorite character, but why that is.
Did he remind you of some of the people in your Christmas parties?
I mean, geez, if I had magical powers, that's me in 50 years. Mumbling to myself and eating magical pierogies.
Yeah, that dude was... Okay, I'm going to say that was kind of gross.
Okay,
it was meant to be. He's a glutton.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I picked up on that, but it was like, what was he dipping them in? Was that paint? What was that?
So we chatted a little bit about this on Facebook.
Yeah, we did.
And I cracked the code, and I mean, it may have been studio paint, Nick, but I think what it's supposed to be is the traditional Ukrainian. Especially the further east in Ukraine you go, the further you get from sort of Polish influences. They are traditionally served in a big bowl with a crap ton of melted butter, like swimming in it, and sour cream.
That's
probably
okay.
Melted butter and sour cream. It looked like bad toothpaste, but
yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. So they in Russia they really do dip them in sour cream?
Oh yeah.
Ew. Okay. I like the butter and onions better myself, but in fact I went out to eat with some friends last night and got some pierogies just because I watched this movie and had to have some.
Were they good?
No.
Okay. That confirms my That just confirms my deep suspicion. Like my father for years was like, "Oh, well, we'll move to the Carolinas," and I'm like, "No, you're not. You'll never eat."
No, you just learn to make it yourself, and since it takes 12 hours to make a couple hundred pierogies, you don't do that very often.
Exactly.
Well, what you do is you start a pierogi food truck.
Oh, yeah. I've had people ask me if pierogies were Italian because my last name's Italian now. And I talk about pierogies, so they think that pierogies are Italian.
Well,
I know. There aren't a whole lot of... the area I live in is a lot of German and English. There aren't a lot of the Eastern European and Mediterranean people here.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Patterns of immigration.
Yeah. So the food, and a lot of the influences in the South were the black folk food, the yams and those kind of things. So that's a lot of the Southern food is a lot of deep fried pork because it was cheaper and that kind of stuff. So it's a totally different palate. It's good. It's just, you sometimes miss that. It's comfort food to me. Except when you dip them in white paint and have them fly across the room into somebody's mouth. That was...
Well, next time we see each other, Mary, when I'm assuming it's probably going to be in June, I will have pierogi with me.
I love you. Seriously, when I go home, I always used to go up there. There were a few still small mom and pop stores and restaurants that used to make those kind of things. But, as the older generation has died out or gotten older and retired, you don't see that anymore. Now you just see the basic, chain food kind of stuff up there. So it's even hard to find it there. Even the churches don't do it that often anymore.
Has there been, at least in Pittsburgh itself, maybe a little bit more of a revival? Because what you've seen here in Philadelphia and definitely up in the New York area where I grew up is after 1991, you had that additional wave of post-socialist immigrants from Poland and the former Soviet Union, and they've revived. There's new restaurants. There's even we were just there a couple weeks ago. We're a half hour away from. For lack of a better term, I'll call a post-Soviet grocery store.
Wow.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I haven't been up there long. Well, I haven't been up there in years now. It's been 3 years. So
well, I guess this means you have to go back, Mary.
I know. I can't wait.
Just see and find out.
Yeah. Get my brother to make a long list of pierogi places for me to go to.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that guy was weird. He was gross.
Well, and it took me a second to remember the sorcerer character because I was like, wait, there was the head.
Yeah.
Wasn't that what they called him? The head, and he was the town head.
Yeah.
And the mayor, I guess, and you had the I guess he was the priest.
That was your local cleric.
Yeah, the local cleric with that really, really nappy little rat tail.
He was disgusting.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
he was a lech.
Out before, every one of these Soviet movies that we have covered, all of the priests are garbage.
Yeah, that's
straight
true.
Garbage.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that was put in for that reason. Or maybe they really were garbage. I don't know.
Well, it's in the source material, but see, that's where, some of the pre-revolutionary source material, it's like, okay, well, that's okay, because that fits what we're, making fun of priests is cool, is official now, so you can film this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you couldn't have the priest be the hero in a movie or something.
That's true, too.
No, and even when I guess he's sort of, or at least a priest is a protagonist, like V, he's useless.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I did like the devil in this, though. He was so good.
You keep saying that. You have a crush on the devil, Mary, and I think you need to see a priest about an exorcism.
But he had that little pig nose, but he had like a monkey tail, and he was real little. Well, he got real little because they put him in his pocket.
Well, he could change. He was a master of changing his size.
Yes. He kind of reminded me of the Grinch.
Yeah, well, I actually, that's a good point. He sort of, his physical characteristics are like the live-action Grinch with Jim Carrey. Yeah, thinking about it, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Because he had that kind of nappy, wiry hair.
Uh-huh.
And, and the little pig nose. And, he was an interesting devil. I will give him that.
Wasn't he Baba Yaga?
Yes, that would be the same actor. I true favorite, Georgi Miller, who was usually the guy who he would have the effects and makeup department put grotesque or weird stuff on.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm just imagining, my mind when I was watching this went to the original Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. If I remember right, it was Buddy Ebsen.
Mm-hmm.
And he was painted silver, and he got sick from the silver paint.
Did he?
Yeah, that's why it was not Buddy Ebsen in The Wizard of Oz. He got sick. And, the paint, really made him sick. Because remember, this was early days in cinema. I mean, not that early. It had only been around for about, as a practical industry, 30 or so years. And, for special effects like that, they just used a silver-based paint. And whatever was in it, I think it probably was 50% lead or something.
I was about to say, too, it's early enough in the industry where the artists either are just unionizing or not unionized.
True.
So it's like, here's you want work, wear this.
Yeah.
And he got real sick, but I got thinking watching the devil, I was like, man, I wonder, was this guy being painted with leftovers from the nuclear plant or what?
No, but Gregory Miller, he shows up in all of these quirky film, folk adaptations, and he was the go-to sort of guy for roles like this.
Yeah.
He's
By the way, did I say the Scarecrow or the Tin? I meant the Tin
You
Man.
meant Tin Man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I had Scarecrow in my head because I was watching Batman the other day.
Okay.
Hey, I'm just saying.
Okay. There's one movie that keeps popping up, and it's what's the name of that movie? Fire, Water, and Brass Pipes. What is that movie? Have you seen it?
Years and years ago.
Okay.
What is it?
It's called Fire, Water, and Brass Pipes.
I have no idea what it is.
And I guess it was done by Rue.
Yeah, it's the same ensemble.
Yeah. Because it seems like everybody was in there.
Yeah, Rue would reuse his cast quite a bit.
Okay.
So
is it... Okay, that was in 1968. Okay. Somebody journeys into forest to meet his beloved, and he's whisked away by, I guess, somebody bad.
Wow.
Wow, Mary, that was almost as good a synopsis as I give of films.
Somebody bad.
Someone bad. That's like, and hey, Mary, did you see Silence of the Lambs? Yeah, this lady cop goes to a prison and meets someone bad.
What I meant is it's like the same kind of storyline that isn't. It sounds like it might be the same kind of story as this because there's a Baba Yaga in it.
Yeah, it's been years since I have seen that, but
Okay.
Alexander Rue was the Soviet Union's, go-to guy for, folk films, which, after, sort of the 1930s, and once, the Stalin regime said it's okay to use certain, the key there, certain pre-revolutionary, tropes and stuff, became immensely popular. It was probably one of the most popular genres in the 50s and the 60s.
Oh, okay. I just wondered because this same guy's in it. What was his name? Georgie
Miller.
Georgie Miller. He plays Baba Yaga, and he plays that cat chef guy who is the bad guy that whisks away the girl into the forest. So it kind
of, the bad guy.
Yeah, that bad guy.
Somebody who is bad.
Yeah.
It kind of has that same kind of look to it. I just wondered. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, we're going to move on now, Mary, before some kind of bad guy gets to you.
Really?
Mary, do you have any other questions before we get to, the plot synopsis, or?
No. Well, no.
No, but yeah, kind of, no, maybe, no, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, we were talking before we went on air about that miniature work that they did from St. Petersburg.
Oh yeah, that was pretty awesome.
That was incredible. I love that.
And I'm going to throw a question out there that you guys may or may not know the answer to, but I was just curious because, okay, a lot of this film was filmed obviously outside, obviously on set pieces also, but one of the things I was curious about when, the blacksmith, how do you say his name? Vakula?
Vakula, yeah.
Vakula. Yeah, what Matt said. So when that guy,
what you said, Nick, what you said, but that K is kind of soft. So
okay, so
Vakula. There we go.
Okay, so it's like Dracula, only it's Vakula.
Exactly.
Okay, so Vakula was. God, I feel like I'm drinking vodka as I say it.
I think you need to be.
Well, he goes to St. Petersburg and he goes to the palace of the Tsar and Tsarina.
Yes.
And I was curious if they actually filmed in the palace or if that was a set piece.
I think that was a set piece because Gorky Films was actually located in the town. Formerly, it's reverted to its pre-revolutionary name, but in Gorky.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that is the mileage between St. Petersburg and Gorky is fairly significant. So that was all set work, and again, full props to the art department here.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a great job with that. I mean, and what Mary's talking about, there's a scene when Vakula is flying to St. Petersburg on Devil Express. And, as he's coming in for a landing, you see this image of St. Petersburg, I guess, as it might have looked from the air circa the 1830s, 1840s, something like that. And it's just this, what looks to me like a fairly massive model that they built. And I'm going to guess this got used in a bunch of films.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah.
Because I can't see you building something that elaborate for what is essentially a throwaway scene of landing in St. Petersburg.
That's true.
But it was a really nice model.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, if we want to, I guess if we want to go on to the plot synopsis, I can, because I'm not going to be able to tell you jack nothing about the cast.
But
they were Russian or Ukrainian. The end. That's about the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mary.
Oh, and a couple of them were dubbed, apparently, according to Mary. Okay.
Okay.
So
the
go
shooting
ahead.
took place in March.
Wait, what?
The shooting. They shot this movie in March of 1961.
Okay.
All those winter scenes were real.
Oh yeah, I could tell. It's funny. The winter there was actual outdoor winter scenes.
Yeah.
And then there was we're on a set winter scenes.
Yeah.
Where you could tell, and one of the, because I think some of the actors would have died if all those night scenes had actually been shot outside.
I know.
Like the one playing the devil getting buried in the snow, that's yeah. But anyway.
But they built that whole set. They built those huts, and they used like local miners and students, and all the extras in it were people that lived in that area, which I thought was really crazy. But that was March. That was a lot of snow.
There's a reason why soccer in Russia and the post-Soviet space goes on a 3-month winter break. You can't do anything from December to March.
Wow.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, it's just, it's bad.
Wow. Yeah. And I love just the costumes and the colors and it just reminded me so much of Father Frost.
Well, as we mentioned, it's the same studio with a lot of the same players. So,
And I like that animated scene that they did.
That reminded me of like a 30s cartoon.
It did, like the old Looney Tunes stuff from the 30s. It was really good. I was totally shocked.
And funny you say that, Mary, because there is also, and I have not seen this, but I'd like to hunt it down. There's also a 1951 animated adaptation of this story from the Soviet Union.
Wow. Wow. They've done a lot of adaptations of this over the years. Tchaikovsky did it.
Yeah, there's an opera.
Yeah. Vakula the Smith. Wow. And Rimsky-Korsakov did an opera in 51.
So does that mean I have to do the synopsis in the form of an opera?
No, we don't need that.
The night before Christmas. I don't know. I'm not really good at opera, so I'll let that go.
A bit more vibrato in your voice.
Excuse me, Mary. This is a family-friendly podcast. I'll have you watch your language.
Okay, I will from now on.
Okay, you don't say vibrato. Oh, I said it myself. Whoops.
Ooh.
Oh, I feel dirty now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, the night before Christmas, a.k.a. evenings on a farm near Dikanka.
Say it, Nat.
Dikanka.
With Vakula. So it's evenings on a farm near Dikanka. Yes, what Matt said.
Matt said.
Anyway, and by the way, this was how Mary told me to find the film. Oh, Nick, it's a movie called The Night Before Christmas, and it's on Amazon Prime, so you can get it on there. And I went and looked, and it's not on Amazon Prime under The Night Before Christmas.
I know.
When I looked for it, all I kept finding was, I was like, no, that's not it. That's not it. Crap. No, it's evening. I ended up having to Google Russian Christmas film from 1961 and evenings on a farm near
Dikanka.
Evenings on a farm near that came up.
And also, it just dawned on me, and I was like, like agreeing with you. Chronologically, the film itself, this like I completely blanked on this. We're all saying, "Oh, it's contemporary. It's contemporary." No, it's not. It's set during the reign of Catherine the Great, so it's actually the 18th century.
Oh, okay. So it's a little bit further back than even I thought.
Back. So yeah, I just looked at my notes and I was like, "Wow, Matt, why did you say that?"
Well, but there we go. We got it though. So no harm, no foul, right? So anyway, this is one of the less depressing stories by Nikolai Gogol. Dang nabbit, I'm just messing up everybody's names tonight. So famous Russian dude, Nicky G. This is one of his
Russo-Ukrainian.
Yeah, right. Excuse me, Russo-Ukrainian dude, Nicky G. He wrote this in his happier times, I guess.
His second thing.
Yeah.
His first thing didn't go over very well.
Yeah, but okay. Here's the question, though: was this his original story, or was this an adaptation of a folk story that he had heard? And I don't know if there's an answer for that because, I'm curious.
From my understanding, this is a mashup.
Yeah.
Several Ukrainian folk stories, holiday, quote unquote, tales. And in terms of, I made a point to reread the source material before watching the film. The film is as accurate to the source as can be.
Okay.
Wow.
Which it's a very short story, which is why it's also kind of a very short film.
Oh. Okay.
Well, and that makes sense. And yeah, I was surprised when I clocked it in at 66 minutes. I was like, oh,
just a little over an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just a typical episode of Wednesday on Netflix or something, But
I think Evenings on the Farm was his first collection of short stories, but it's in 2 volumes, and I think this was from the second volume.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just tales of peasant life in Little Russia.
That makes sense.
Kind of made up from bits and pieces, talking to his mom.
Cool.
Yeah.
So really, it should be called Letters from Nicky G's Mom.
Okay.
But well, anyway, so you got this little Russian village that is, I guess it's Dikanka.
Yeah, and it's clear. So this part of Ukraine, which at this time was called Novaya Russia, New Russia, was sort of semi-autonomous. Hence, when the quote-unquote head. This part of Ukraine was part of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth just a century or so before this film takes place.
Okay.
But when the Polish state attempted to Polonize, the local inhabitants, who wouldn't have considered themselves Ukrainian, wouldn't have considered themselves Russian, they were the Zaporozhian Cossacks. They had a rebellion. They did bad things. Well, I guess depending on your point of view, bad things. Because they knew they weren't Polish. And so they entered into an agreement with the Russian state where they enjoyed a degree of semi-autonomy in exchange for military service. And so it was this sort of semi-autonomous region in what is today sort of southeastern Ukraine.
Okay. No, that's pretty cool.
But the Ukrainian language didn't happen until later, didn't it?
Yes. So that's why I said these dudes would not consider themselves. If you said, "Who are you?" and you were like, "Are you Ukrainian?" They'd be like, "What the hell is that? That Ukraine just means borderland. What are you talking about?" They'd say if you were Russian, they'd be like, "No, because we're not like those people in St. Petersburg. We're Cossacks." So proto-Ukrainian, pre-Ukrainian.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. Well, okay. So, in this Ukrainian little village in the middle of nowhere, you had the devil. He was just hanging out. And he was hanging out there because there was a blacksmith named Vakulia. And Vakulia, the blacksmith, he was also apparently a gifted painter. And he painted this mural depicting, I guess, members of the church in the town capturing the devil and just wailing on him with a whip and tossing him into a hot skillet and into a cauldron of boiling water. And just in all of this depiction really annoyed the devil. And as Mary was pointing out, this particular incarnation of the devil wasn't, like I'm going to lure Eve to bite the apple and be kicked out of Eden. It was more, I'm going to put a whoopee cushion under Eve's chair and make everybody think she passed gas. Ha 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 ha. That kind of, he was more that kind of devil. And he was really annoyed with the blacksmith for painting this painting. So he decides to get his revenge on him. And, this is one of the things I was thinking about. You got this basically supernatural entity, and it wants revenge on a blacksmith. So what does it do? Does it, institute a plague? Does it give him a wasting disease? Does he, it make his forge not hot anymore? Does it curse him to say knee at the end of every sentence? No. He just waits till the guy's walking up a hill and he jumps on his back and makes him fall down in the snow. And then he can't even do that properly because after he does it once, the blacksmith swings his bag around to put it back on his shoulder, and he knocks the devil into the next county, apparently.
That was a good special effect. I like that.
Yeah, that was one of the many speed up the film bit. So
yeah, rewind it.
Yeah, rewind and speed up the film.
Yeah.
But so anyway, that kind of sets the stage for what he's going to do. But the devil's, he's got it in for this guy, but he doesn't really follow through on much of it. He decides instead he's going to play a trick on a couple of the older guys from the village who are getting ready to go to, I guess it's the club to drink on the night before, Christmas Eve. And so he says, aha, I'm going to go and steal the moon. And even as he's out there stealing the moon.
Wait, doesn't he okay, Vakula is in love with, what's her name?
Oksana.
Oksana's father was Chub. And Chub was going to run out with his buddy and go drinking. And
you followed who these people were much better than I did, Mary.
Well,
because this was my thinking. Okay, it's bowl haircut guy, other bowl haircut guy.
Okay.
Wait. Chick with eyes.
Well, the blacksmith.
Chick that steals the stars.
The blacksmith wanted to go see Oksana.
Yeah.
But Oksana's father, Chub, was going out drinking. So the devil had to stop the father from going out drinking and go back home. So the blacksmith couldn't go visit his daughter then because he didn't like him.
I totally did not catch that part of the plot. So that makes more sense to me now.
Yeah, so that's why he did all that stuff, was just to stop the blacksmith from seeing Oksana.
Yeah, and that's that's going, okay, I'll give the devil his due there. That's going up above and beyond to make life rough for the blacksmith.
Mm-hmm.
But he, and here's the other thing. While the devil's out plotting, he looks up in the sky and he sees, what's her name? Sakula? How do you say her name? What is Soloka.
Yeah.
And this is apparently Vakula's mother.
The blacksmith, yeah.
The blacksmith, but she's also kind of the town bicycle and a witch. And by the way, just Google Town Bicycle if you want to know what I'm talking about here. But she is flying around on a broom and collecting stars and putting them in a bag. And, for her potions, I guess.
Okay.
But the devil's like, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to steal the moon.
So it's going to make it dark so that the guys can't go out and party.
Exactly,
so
because they won't
stay
be able
home.
to find their way to the club.
Right.
So that is a brilliant plan that totally underestimates their willingness to go and put their lives in danger in order to drink vodka. So, there you go. I think the devil was really underestimating that. But anyway, so the devil decides he's going to do Pilates, and he does Pilates up in the air until he gets to the moon.
He was swimming.
Whatever. He was doing Pilates as far as I could tell. So he Pilates his way up to the moon, and he tries to grab it. And as I mentioned, it was really hot. So he kind of has to figure out another thing to do. So he grabs a black terry cloth and throws it over the moon and drags the moon down with him. And sure enough, it gets dark. And Chub and his buddy, they are somewhat thwarted in their attempt to go drinking. Only not really, because they're like, yeah, it's dark and dangerous and we could freeze to death out here. But man, I want some booze.
It was going to be a party.
Yeah, so they went ahead and pressed on. So the devil had to do something else to inhibit their trip, and so he gets in front of them. And the devil's apparently only visible when he wants to be. So the rest of the time you can't see him. He jumps in front of them and starts kicking snow up really, really fast, and actually makes kind of a blizzard happen. And so the guys get separated, and Chub ends up going back home. And, does he? No, he didn't go home. He goes to Sakula's house, doesn't he? Or Saloka's house.
Doesn't he first go home, but his daughter doesn't recognize him?
Yeah, that's... Oh, God, I'm screwing the plot up big time.
So then he goes to Sakula's house.
Yeah, so... Well, anyway...
Saluka's. Say her name, Matt.
Sakula.
Okay. Yeah, the bicycle chick.
The witch.
So,
jeez.
So anyway, the devil is able to separate Chub from his buddy. They still both end up kind of doing different things, but meanwhile, Vakula, he goes to see Oksana, and he's just looking at her through the window, kind of a creeper. And he's watching her, and she's staring at herself in the mirror. And, she's obviously a beautiful girl. And she's sitting there going, oh, I'm so not pretty. Oh, I am so horrible. Oh, my nose is so upturned. Oh, God, I am pretty. She just stands there and does that for like 5 minutes. And, finally Vakula comes in, and he's like, hey, baby, can I just stand here and look at you? And she's like, okay, you can look at me. She's being real coy. And then he's like, hey, can I talk to you? He's like, okay, you can talk to me. Hey, can I sit down? No, you have to stand. Oh, okay. So, he is infatuated with this girl, and she is not giving him the time of day. And a bunch of her friends are there, and she's just giving him such a rough time. And she goes, hey, you know what? If you want me to marry you, you have to bring me the Tsarina's shoes. It's like, what? Yeah, bring me the Tsarina's slippers for me to wear, and I will marry you. And she's even like, look, I'm saying it in front of all these witnesses. So, and they're all laughing at Vakula because he's kind of depressed. He's like, oh great, all I have to do now is get the Tsarina slippers to get the girl I love, and he's figuring he's screwed. And he's gonna pack up and just leave town because that's how screwed he feels.
And in the meantime, she goes off caroling with her friends.
Yeah, she goes off caroling, and I guess this was a tradition in the area, but apparently carolers, when they went out singing, rather than what happens nowadays where they get shot by people obeying the stand your ground laws, carolers back in the day would have a sack with them, and it was kind of like trick-or-treating. So you would get, but instead of candy or whatever, you'd get like loaves of bread or turkey or, whatever. People would throw food or gifts into your sack.
Sausages and sweets.
Yeah, sandwiches, sure, whatever. Sweet sandwiches,
Sausages.
Cadillacs, whatever. And so they all went out and, Oksana and her friends got a little bit of stuff. But this was kind of a weird tradition, I thought.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're out doing their thing. Vakula is depressed, but he ends up catching the devil. The devil's kind of mocking him, and Vakula catches him, and he's like, aha, I've caught you now. And the devil's like, well, great, what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to ride you to St. Petersburg.
Well, wait, doesn't he catch him because he hid in the coal sack?
Okay, whoa, yeah, right. Yeah, I totally forgot this. So the devil's being all footsie with Vakula's mom.
Yeah.
Which, can I just say there is something creepy about the devil palling around with the blacksmith's mom? But then again, the blacksmith's mom is palling around with everybody in town. Yeah. So the devil is there, and he's kind of, hey, baby. And she's like, oh, you're my favorite, devil. Oh, no, Chub is at the door. And so Chub is knocking on the door. So what does the devil do? He gets into a sack and hides. He's hiding in a sack. And Chub comes in, and he's being all making the kissy eyes and the kissy faces at Soluka, and suddenly another guy shows up, and she's like, "Oh, you've got to hide!" And so there's kind of this Three Stooges type comedy bit with him trying to find somewhere to hide. He ends up in another sack. And then another fella shows up. I think this is the priest at this point, and somebody shows up on him. So the priest or the cleric, he goes and hides in a sack with Vakula, I believe, or not Vakula, with Chub. And I mean, it's just, how many different guys are going to show up and then hide in a sack in this chick's house? I'm pretty sure every guy in the village was going to end up in a sack if Christmas Eve had gone on much longer. But anyway, so
everybody except Pierogi Man, apparently.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, because how did I forget the Pierogi guy? So Vakula, he's like, I need to go see the Pierogi guy about, what I can do about getting Oksana.
Wait, how does he end up with all the bags, though? I can't remember.
This part I do remember, so we'll get to that.
Okay.
But he goes to see the Pierogi wizard, and we had this long scene watching the Pierogi wizard use his mental telepathy to dump his pierogies into the really nasty looking white stuff and swish them around and then have them fly up and hop into his mouth. And he's like, I'm not going to help you. Ha ha ha. And he throws a milky pierogi into Vakula's mouth, and that's kind of gross. And Vakula goes running out, and he ends up back at his house. And that's it. The cleric, the last one, I think, to get in a sack, has to jump in a sack with Chub because Vakula shows up, and nobody wants to be caught with, Soluka or Soluka. And it's funny because everybody wants to be with her, but nobody wants to get caught with her, right? So anyway, Vakula comes in. He's like, man, Mom is a slob. This place is a mess. Look at all these sacks of junk. And so he actually picks up all the sacks,
which dude is strong, obviously,
Yeah.
picks up all the sacks and takes them outside with him. Well, he realizes that one of them's moving, and so he opens it up, and that's when he finds the devil.
Yeah.
And so he's like, ha, you were the devil, and I've painted a picture of you, and now I've got you. And he tells the devil, he's like, okay, devil, I really want Oksana. And I had actually gone to the wizard, or the pierogi dude, and, was asking him what to do, and he was no help. So now I'm going to have you fly me to St. Petersburg so I can go talk to the Tsarina about her shoes. And this is a weird bit all around, but he hops on the devil's back, and the devil starts doing sky pilates, and,
That was so
takes...
creepy.
Yeah, well, what?
He's grabbing him by his horns, and he's
just
falling off and grabbing his tail, and it was creepy.
Yeah, well, and at one point, the devil gets smart and decides he's going to dump Vakula, but Vakula manages to grab the devil's tail, and he hangs onto the tail, pulls himself back up onto the devil's back, and then, the devil's just swimming him along to St. Petersburg. Devil actually gets tired from doing sky pilates and takes a bit of a sky nap. And while he's napping, I guess Vakula starts dreaming about Oksana, and he's all like, I need to get her those shoes. So he wakes the devil up, and they fly on to St. Petersburg. And that's when we see the really cool model of St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
And, okay, stuff's going on back at the village. All these guys that are in sacks apparently cannot escape from the sacks easily. So they keep getting picked up by different people and hauled around. And, there's all sorts of weird sight gag comedy about these sacks that are moving on their own, and people are freaking out. And, oh, my God. And, but finally everybody gets out of their sacks. But meanwhile, Vakula is at the palace in St. Petersburg, and he runs into a bunch of bald dudes who are sitting around smoking.
Cossacks.
Are they Cossacks? Okay, so these bald dudes are Cossacks. So he runs into the Cossacks, and he's like, hey, guys, you passed through my village a while back, and I put a rim on one of your wheels. They're like, oh, great. He's like, hey, can I go see the Tsarina with you? And they're like, okay, sure. I mean, they kind of make fun of him at first, but at the end of the day, they let him go with them. So they go wandering through the palace, and Vakula is absolutely gobsmacked by the palace. And, he's standing there gawking with his mouth open like I did the last time I was in New York City. New York City? Oh, wait, this is a different story. But anyway, Vakula finally catches up with the Cossacks. The Tsarina and the Tsar come out, and they are dressed very much like, I guess, my impression of 18th century French royalty.
That's exactly... That's pretty much it. And it's not the Tsar, by the way.
Oh, it's not?
That's Potemkin.
Oh. Okay.
So, Catherine the Great, for most of her reign, ruled by herself.
Yeah.
So, Potemkin was her big general, possibly lover. And the Cossacks are there because, like I had said before, this particular group of Cossacks, the Zaporozhian host, the deal was that they would cede their territory to the Russian state for certain privileges, but they also became kind of a military caste. And so if you remember that scene when they're all smoking pipes, they're talking about going to fight the Turks.
Okay, yeah.
They're there to confer with Potemkin to go and launch this, these never-ending campaigns in the Black Sea and the Crimea and the Caucasus against the Turks.
Okay, so that makes more sense, and I needed a little context for that. So
this is also where the sort of Ukraine-Russian relationship also sort of comes in, because Ukraine and Ukrainian identity, Ukrainianness, the sort of Cossack mythos is, romanticized. It's something that is positive in not just the literary source material, but also in this film.
Yeah.
But here's where I notice I deliberately haven't used that term Mary keeps using, Little Russia.
Yeah.
That's a problematic term.
Okay.
So, historically, and not really historically, the guy who's running Russia today still believes this. Ukrainians aren't real. There's one Russia and three Russian groups. There's the Great Russians, so Russians.
Right.
Belarusians, White Russians, and Little Russians, aka Ukrainians. But they're all the same people.
Ah.
Great Russians, because their civilization is more advanced, are first amongst equals. And it's in this scene where you do see that dynamic play itself out, because there's that little exchange where General Potemkin's like, okay, you're going to meet the Tsarina. Remember what I told you, barbarians, how to behave, right?
Ah.
I have civilization. I have manners. You're some, bros from the road. You're like us. We're brothers, but I'm big brother.
Yeah. Okay. Don't embarrass me. Yeah.
Don't embarrass me. And that's really important because in the Soviet Union, Ukraine and Ukrainians were recognized as a people. But this whole Ukrainian-Russian brotherhood thing and this sort of notion of Ukrainians as second amongst equals was kind of played up. So this is something even in like early, more Ukrainophile Gogol, which would have been acceptable in the early 1960s. This notion of Russian-Ukrainian friendship, but, the Russian has to take the Ukrainians' keys when they leave the bar because you can't trust this guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
does that make any sense? Okay.
Yeah, that completes the picture for me of what was actually going on there, because I really was having a hard time. I understood that these guys were fighters, and I understood that they were, that they had been doing some campaigning or something, but I didn't quite get the whole dynamic there, and that makes a lot more sense. So anyway, the Cossacks are all there, and they're all bowed, and Vokula is there with them, and he's like, or Vokula's there with them, and he's like, hey, I'm going to stand up and make a request to the Tsarina. And, Potemkin's kind of like, hey, you can't do that. And Tsarina's like, it's okay. This guy is, he is so simple that it is just absolutely charming to me. So she's very much willing to give this guy her shoes, but at the same time, she's kind of saying, oh, you are just an adorable little simpleton. Here are these
little
shoes.
Russian that take my shoes, but remember, we're the teachers here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very, very much in the dynamic with what was going on there. But she gives him the shoes. So Vokula hops on the devil and rides back to St. Petersburg. Well, meanwhile, everybody knows that Vokula's kind of left town, or he's disappeared.
Wait, when does he stick the devil in his pocket?
What?
Remember, he sticks the devil in his pocket?
Well, yeah, when he gets to St. Petersburg, you can't go walking around with the devil, holding onto the devil by his tail.
Okay.
So he just tells the devil to get in his pocket.
Okay.
And the devil shrinks down and jumps in his pocket.
Okay.
And the devil's actually helpful, because when it's time that he needs to make his request to the Tsarina, devil pops out and says, go talk to her now.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. But anyway, so he pulls the devil back out of his pocket and wrangles him and gets on him and rides him back to St. Petersburg. Now, meanwhile, Chub has finally escaped from the sack after one of his friends finds the sack and thinks he's going to have a big...
Is that one character Chub's cousin?
I guess. I don't know. They were all, bowl haircut #1 to me. But,
yeah.
But yeah.
Wasn't that Panna? Panna and Chub were buds.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, he ends up getting out of his sack. The cleric gets out of his sack. Everybody who was in a sack is finally released from their sacks. But they all get the bright idea that they're going to tell everybody that the blacksmith has committed suicide. And there's this really weird scene where two kind of older ladies are arguing with each other about, did he drown or did he hang himself? Did he drown or did he hang himself? And they're arguing about it. And finally, Chub splits them up after he gets spit on or whatever. And, it's just a weird scene. But meanwhile, Oksana is actually feeling bad about how she treated Vakula. And that is, at that point, I actually started to like her character.
Yeah.
Because up until this point, I was like, man, she is just a
B.
And, she was not a nice person. And, but then she's like, oh, I don't know why I treated him so bad. I'm so wrong. I wish he were here. Oh, he's killed himself because of me. This is terrible, and so about that time, she's lamenting his demise. Chub is kind of lamenting the kid's demise, and they're actually having a toast to him, and all of a sudden he walks in the door, and for whatever reason, he's like, I am sorry, here, take this. Oh, before that, he lets the devil go, but not before he grabs his tail and just beats the devil with a whip.
Mm-hmm.
And the devil goes off to soak his butt in the snow. And, I guess that's the last we'll see of him for a while because he's run off. But anyway, Vakula goes to Chub and kind of is like, hey, I'm back. And here, you can beat me with this whip. And so Chub does for a little bit. And then he's like, okay, now I'd like the hand of your daughter in marriage. And I guess he's like, well, I could do worse. And about that time, Vakula goes to see Oksana, and she is shocked that he is still alive. And she's like, oh! And he just pulls out the slippers that he got from the Tsarina, and he's like, here are these slippers for you. And she's like, I don't want slippers. And it's because she wants, Vakula. And so the two, I'm going to say the credits roll at that point and say the end. I'm going to say they needed to throw in and they lived happily ever after at that point. So that was the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it had a lot of sky Pilates with the devil. It had a whole lot of really gross pierogi dipping. It had the town bicycle / Vakula's mom / the witch, who at the end of the day didn't do that many bad things. All she did was steal a few stars and put all the guys in town in sacks. So there you go. There were definitely a few stories going on all jammed together in this.
Yeah. But you have to watch it a couple times because it gets kind of the characters get confusing.
Yeah, no duh. I was confused as all get out for half the movie, but but that's neither here nor there. I really am pleased that a film that looks like it was aimed at young Russian kids was able to totally flummox me as far as what was going on.
But you're not a young Russian kid, Nick.
And no, that's true. I would like to think I would be able to grasp everything as well, but, whatever. So things I learned from this are when the devil's giving you trouble, grab him by the tail and tell him to get in your pocket.
Sounds good.
So there you go. By the way, Pocket Devil will be available this fall from QVC. Oh, Mary.
Okay.
Okay.
I liked it a lot.
No, I enjoyed the film. It was very interesting.
Do people really? Do they still carol in Russia and get food?
Not as much, but it's still a tradition, and it was still a tradition My father wouldn't have remembered this, but my grandfather certainly did. There were enough Ukrainians and Russians in this one section of Bayonne, New Jersey, that on Orthodox Christmas Eve you would show up with your like burlap sack and like you'd get like a loaf of rye bread or snack kielbasa or something.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool. I got one more question. There was a bard or singer at one point towards the end of the movie, and he was singing about how bad life was. What was he playing?
Okay, so that is a traditional Ukrainian instrument called the bandarava.
The bandarava.
And yeah, so it's like I don't know how to describe it to people that don't have any kind of visual reference.
Let's call it a steampunk electric guitar.
Yeah, it's like a guitar on steroids.
Weren't they cranking a lever or something?
There was a whole lot of stuff going on with that guitar.
Yeah.
It was weird.
It was definitely weird. But it was something I noticed, and I actually rewound the film a couple of times just to look at the thing, because I was like, I have never seen the beat in my life. So there you go.
See, traditionally in my church on Christmas Eve, you went to church. It was like you didn't go on Christmas Day. You went on Christmas Eve.
Was it a midnight mass?
It was a midnight mass.
Yeah, no, that's the same. The Eastern Orthodox churches up by us did that.
Okay. So we didn't do caroling and get food. We went to church and brought. No, wait a minute.
You went to church and brought casseroles.
That was Easter.
Just be real.
You're thinking Easter?
I'm thinking Easter. Yeah,
I'm thinking Easter. Yeah, no, that's...
Yeah. Okay, never mind.
Well, so what we've learned is that Mary definitely doesn't go to church that much. And when she does, she takes inappropriate casseroles.
Well, considering I don't think there is a Russian Orthodox Greek Catholic Church in the state of South Carolina.
Did you just say Russian Orthodox Greek Catholic Church?
Yeah, that's my church.
No, I understand where Mary's going.
Gotcha.
No, there's in Western Ukraine, the part of Ukraine or Eastern Slovakia that Mary's family's from, so Carpatho Rus, when it was under Polish rule, the Poles were like, we can't trust you, so you have to become Catholic. And the locals were like, no. And then they were like, okay, well, you can become Catholic, but you can keep all the Orthodox stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how
okay, we can live with that. So you have these, they're called Eastern Rite or Greek Catholic churches.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they acknowledge the Pope, but outside of that, it's Orthodox.
Right.
Okay.
It's Russian Orthodox, yeah.
Well, it's Greek Catholic, but it's Eastern Rite.
Yeah. What? No, we didn't acknowledge the Pope.
So, okay, so this is the origin of Scientology. Is that what you're saying?
So,
where do the Titans come in?
Eastern Rite Catholics acknowledge the Pope, but that's the extent of it. And this was because of this sort of political union with the Polish state. The Russian Orthodox Church, like the Metropolitan, I was sort of saying this before when I was talking about Satan. He's a state employee. Like he's appointed by the state.
Okay.
So like in the old days, he was like the Tsar's drinking buddy, because Tsar didn't want to listen to that guy in Rome. So he was like, no, I have my own church now.
Okay, so explain. Okay, I might be offending a whole bunch of people with this question.
Oh, now you're
Go ahead.
Okay. My father wanted to become a Mason.
Mm-hmm.
You can't.
No, I think I know where you're going with it.
You can't be a Mason and be a Roman Catholic because there are secrets that the Masons hold near and dear that they're not allowed to tell anybody at all. And if you are Roman Catholic, you are supposed to technically tell the Pope anything.
Okay.
So-
My answer is going to offend the people that I think that you think your question would offend. So the Masons, yeah, I guess they have secrets and stuff. But here's the secret, the said, unsaid of all of that. The Masons are historically a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant fraternal organization.
Yes.
And I'd argue to this day in the United States, white Anglo-Saxon American Protestant, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, Nick obviously being an excluding Nick.
Oh, thank you.
They really don't like us Catholics.
Yeah.
So no, your father wasn't able to join because he'd tell the Pope. It's because of racism.
Well, that was the reason they gave, though, is that
the
secrets weren't allowed to be shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a polite reason. I think Matt's hit the nail on the head there. It was just it was racism, but
then he did
we'll disguise it with that.
But then he did become one, so they let him in.
That's probably.
So that's why I'm thinking Russian Orthodox Greek Catholic Church. I don't ever remember them ever talking about a pope. So I'm wondering. No, I'm going to have to look into that when I get up home.
Yeah, no, because the Eastern Rite Catholics, technically they're Catholic, but they're only Catholic in so much that they signed something in the 1600s saying, yeah, we acknowledge the Pope.
Okay.
Well, wow. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to call out the fact that this has been a very educational podcast for everybody, because I actually sort of understand a little bit about the Russian Orthodox Greek Catholic Church now.
Okay.
And I definitely
understand. Separate churches.
Yeah. See, my priest was allowed to marry and have kids and a family.
But see, the Eastern Catholic churches, you can do that. Literally, it was only, hey, acknowledge the Pope because you guys are citizens of the Kingdom of Poland. And if you're Orthodox, we're afraid that's tantamount to treason. Let's get you into the fold, but without having you get pissed off. Because if we does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah. Yeah. There aren't a whole lot of those churches around.
No, and historically, in modern Ukraine, Eastern Catholics make up maybe 15% of the population, and it's all that little sliver of Western Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
So it's, the Carpathian region, Galatia, etc. Oh, yeah, the priests can marry, have kids, all. The only thing was the Polish state was so concerned about security, and they were like, okay, well, you guys aren't going to become Roman Catholics.
Okay.
And you just say you acknowledge the Pope.
Okay.
Because if you acknowledge the Pope, then you're not acknowledging the Tsar in Moscow.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Cool.
So once again, ladies and gentlemen, this has been, we will make the syllabus available for this episode. Be sure to check your email.
And Matt will be having upcoming test on it.
Yes.
And he will grade you.
And that's okay, because he'll grade on a curve, because he's put up with me not being able to say any Russian words.
No, that's, Nick, that's my pronunciation is still not great, so.
Well, it's better than ours, believe me.
Well, yeah, I'm going to say definitely better than mine, but that's beside the point.
Yes.
So
anyway,
this
good movie.
This was a fun movie. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah. Especially since we did, like I said, that other one, Father Frost.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it's a good follow-up.
Yeah, it is.
So, I got a question, Mary.
Yes.
Do we have any feedback?
Yes, we do.
Well, let's get to it.
Quite a bit of it. Let's see. The first one is from Dax Bradley.
Well, hey, Dax Bradley.
It says, "Hi, Mary. Hi, Dax. And also Nick 1 and other distinguished guests. Just wanted to drop a quick thank you note because as a Southerner, it's law that you send thank you notes. Thank you for the Blu-ray of Big Trouble in Little China. We've already watched it, and by we, I mean me. The missus checked out about 10 minutes in. It's not, I know, it's not everybody's speed. I liked it. I was surprised.
I was going to say, I love Big Trouble in Little China, but why were you surprised?
I don't know, because it's one of those movies Vince and I never watched before, and I just assumed that he didn't like it, so I wouldn't like it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's what happens when you assume, isn't it, Mary?
I've yet to learn that lesson.
Well, you just keep studying, lady.
He goes on to say, I think it's pretty much a perfect movie. Thank you for bringing on Mark Mostyn in the Krampus episode. He really has a charmed life, and we're treated to his great stories of brushes with fame. I'm always impressed, if not a little envious. We all are.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's very true. I hope everyone at the B Movie Clubhouse had a wonderful holiday season and that you all have a safe and prosperous 2023. All the best, Dax in North Carolina. Woohoo!
All right.
Yes. Okay, and we have an MP3 from Sinestro. Remember Sinestro? El Sinestro? John from Gatehead. I think.
Hello, Mary and Nick, and sometimes Mark or Juan. This is El Sinestro, a voice from the past. Otherwise known as John from Gateshead. I'm sorry it's been so long since I've been in touch, but you haven't covered very many films that I've seen, so there hasn't been much for me to comment on. This is mainly about your cast on Halloween. I agree with most of what you said about it. I think it's a great film, although unfortunately it sparked off a series of slasher films that were more violent and not nearly as creepy. For once, John Carpenter got everything right, creating a sense of threat without too much gore or explicit violence, and his music score was perfect. I think it's probably his best film, although I quite like Starman, and The Fog, as far as I remember, is pretty good too. I know that's a favourite of Nick's. I really don't like his version of The Thing. When I first saw it after Halloween, I was expecting something much subtler and more creepy, and viewing it again recently, I didn't like it anymore. There seems to be no character development, which could be why it seems to have no suspense. In Halloween, Laurie and even some of her friends were sympathetic and likeable. I think in every film you have to have somebody to root for. Anyway, the horror film I've seen most recently is the latest in the Conjuring series, The Devil Made Me Do It. It continues the story of a real but fictionalized couple of psychic investigators, Ed and Lorraine Warren. This time they're investigating a demon which seems to have passed from a young boy to his older brother, leading the older brother to commit murder. It turns out there's a curse on the family, and the Warrens have to try to figure out who has cursed them and how they can break the curse. There's not a huge amount I can say about this one, because it was a middling sort of film. It's not bad, but could have been creepier, and as with a lot of films, it was at least 20 minutes too long. You might want to give it a look, but I'd say don't buy the Blu-ray as I did, because I doubt you'll want to watch it again in a hurry.
Ooh.
As for what I've been up to, like everybody else, I had my travel plans disrupted by the pandemic, with a trip to Italy having to be cancelled and trips to Canada and the Canary Islands postponed indefinitely. Canada was planned for 2020, and we finally made it this year in August. going to Montreal first and then on to Toronto. Toronto's probably one of my favorite places in North America, with a big city vibe, not unlike New York, where we've also been a couple of times. If all goes well, industrial action and the weather permitting, we'll be in Gran Canaria for Christmas. That will be really welcome because it's literally freezing here at the moment, and the Canaries are not just considerably warmer, they also have about 3 hours per day more daylight than the northeast of England.
Oh.
Anyway,
Wow.
I'll sign off now and hope everybody is well. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, for
Thank
real.
you
It was
for that.
great to hear from him, and
I
wow.
know.
Voice
Although,
again.
sorry you got your travel plans jacked up, but man, going to the Canary Islands even now sounds rocking.
Okay, where are the Canary Islands?
In the ocean.
Mm.
They're due west of
Africa?
Spain. Yeah, so it's like sort of here's Spain, here's the Iberian Peninsula. South of that's like Morocco, North Africa.
Mhm.
Just go west.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're right there. They're a destination spot, and also I think the U.S. still has a Navy base there. No, they did during the Cold War.
I think they do, but I'm not dead on sure.
And that's how Francisco Franco became palatable again. It was like, you sided with Hitler, but, you're not a communist. You have your naval base?
Hmm.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, that was pretty much U.S. foreign policy for 40 years.
Wow.
You're not a communist? Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he
The
made it.
simpler days of foreign policy.
I hope you made it there for your Christmas holiday.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we all need a little bit of warmth. It's been cold here for a long time now.
Yeah.
Or raining.
Well, I will say I've been in Texas this week. I'm there now, and it was 81 degrees this morning.
Wow.
It's been all over the place in the Northeast. Today was in the 50s, but it's going to be down into the low 20s again by Friday.
Yeah.
And my semester starts next week, so it will snow. We haven't seen it will snow.
Now, that makes sense. It's got to.
Is Marie still working from home, or does she have to go?
Oh, yeah, she's fully remote.
Okay, that's good. At least she doesn't have to worry about the snow.
That cuts down on the commute.
True. Okay, this next one is from Marlo Brown. It says, Merry Christmas to you all. Hi, Mary, Nick, Mark, and everyone else in the clubhouse. I just finished the cast and sit here enjoying my dirty martini before Christmas dinner. It's 2 ounces of Gordon's gin with a splash of brine from the olive jar added before brutally shaking with ice. I know Vince always mentioned a beer and a TV dinner, but it's Christmas, so I hope I can be forgiven. Yeah, we'll forgive you. Yeah.
Hey.
Anyway, I want to sincerely thank you all for bringing this amazing movie to my attention. He's talking about Krampus, by the way. I watched it before listening and absolutely loved it. I've said before, but I really mean it. Y'all are enriching the lives of your listeners by sharing these great movies that many of us missed the first time round. Thanks again, and all the best from the haunted borderlands of South Texas. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. Bye, Mary.
All right.
Bye, Marlo. And he also sent an MP3. So,
hello, B-Movie Cast. Hello, Mary. Hi, Nick. Hi, Juan. I hope you all are having a wonderful holidays. I very much enjoyed the most recent episode, episode 505, El Dia de la Bestia. And this is Marlo calling from South Texas. Sorry, I should have led with that.
Hi, Marlo.
And that was a really good cast. I haven't seen the film yet, but I am hoping to see it soon. Sounded really great.
It is good.
And the previous episode, El Ángel Exterminador, the Buñuel film, I had seen that one previously, and my wife and I sat and watched that one recently after I listened to the cast, and we both really enjoyed it. You guys are doing a great job Especially, I like that you're doing some of the Spanish films and foreign language films, because that's really a big part of the B movie world that a lot of us probably wouldn't see otherwise. I do have a Spanish language film, though, that I could recommend, which is A la Triste, Alatriste. It's a swashbuckling film starring, surprisingly, Viggo Mortensen, and it's in Castilian Spanish, and it's set during the time of the Inquisition. It's good stuff. All the swords and duels and intrigues, and it's a really good film. And I want to thank Juan for his contribution to the cast. He's always a real source of knowledge of parts of film, B movies that I never would have known about otherwise. I'm very much looking forward to seeing The 13th Chair. When he said he thought I would enjoy it, I think he's right. I think I'm going to enjoy it. I very much love the films of the 30s, and one of my all-time favorites is The Four Feathers from 1939. There's several versions of the film of The Four Feathers, but that's the one I really like the best. With Ralph Richardson, it's a big budget, gorgeous, shot on location film that probably couldn't be made today. And it now is on the Criterion Collection, so that's the version I would recommend. If you want to see the film, see that one, because get all that good behind the scenes stuff that's really interesting to those of us who love those films.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of just recent B movies, I was glad that Nick mentioned a fun and enjoyable and very different holiday movie, Rare Exports, and that y'all had done a cast on that, I think, several years ago.
Yes.
There's another different take on Santa that's more recent called Fat Man from, I think, 2020 with Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
Might be worth a watch. It's on Redbox and probably some other places, and it's Santa as badass, and a spoiled rich kid sends a hitman after Santa after he doesn't get what he wants for Christmas. Fun stuff. Also, recently I rewatched Monster Squad, and I was very surprised when I went looking to see what the movie cast had said about it to not find it. I figured this one was one of the ones you had done. I always assumed it was somewhere in there, and I just hadn't listened to it yet. But I couldn't find it, and so I guess y'all are maybe saving it for a special occasion or something, because it definitely seems like it's in your wheelhouse. And I also watched a John Carpenter film from the 90s. Everybody talks about the 80s, Escape from New York, and The Thing, and Big Trouble in Little China, and They Live. But Vampires from 98 is a really enjoyable John Carpenter film. A little more mature John Carpenter. His cinematography, his photography skills in general are always solid, but I really enjoy this one. It's set in the Southwest, so we get a vampire Western with James Woods chewing the scenery. Anybody who hasn't seen it, it's on Netflix right now, but only until January 1st, and maybe you won't even hear this until after that, but I don't think it's going to be hard to find for anybody who's interested. It's a good film. Anyway, I should let you go. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, and I look forward to the next episode with Mark Mostyn. He's always a lot of fun to listen to. I love his stories, and I wish you all the best. And it's Marlo signing off from South Texas. Bye, Mary.
Bye, Marlo.
Yeah, no, that was a great message. And Marlo, totally agree with you about vampires. It is a rockin' flick.
Underrated. Very underrated.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't think we were saving Monster Squad. I think it's honestly that we just think about so many daggone movies that we didn't get around to it. But I think we need to bump Monster Squad up on the list.
Explain Monster Squad to me.
All the Universal monsters come to a town, and a bunch of kids have to stop them from ending the world.
Oh.
If you were like, I guess I'd be third wave monster kid, but if you did your growing up in the 80s, early 90s, you know this movie.
Yeah. Monster Squad I think it came out in 86, 87.
I want to say that because I remember when we first got HBO and it first hit HBO, and that was like a thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
I remember
and
that one.
another bit is the film Night of the Creeps. I believe it was the same director and screenwriter, because they actually have Monster Squad rules scrawled as graffiti on a bathroom in one scene.
Wow.
At least we forget it is the film that gave us the immortal line, Wolfman's got nards.
Yes.
Wolfman's got what?
Nards.
Oh.
Nards, Mary.
Okay.
Nards.
Yes.
Nards.
Okay, you can stop saying nards.
What, stop saying nards? Or stop saying nards? Mary. Mary.
What?
Do you want me to stop saying nards?
Yes, please.
Okay. I won't say nards anymore. Right? Stop saying nards.
Can somebody tell me if they've seen the new Santa movie?
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Is it? Oh,
yeah.
I gotta see that before it leaves the theaters.
Well, you should have seen it before Christmas, but that's beside the point.
I know. It's been a crazy December.
But yeah, Violent Night, totally rocking.
Yeah, I really want to see that.
Although I did learn that I have contaminated Fiona in ways that I didn't even completely understand when she was trying to decide if her parents would like it. And she says, "Oh, it wasn't that violent. It wasn't that gory." And I looked at her and said, "Mary, they put a guy through a wood chipper."
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, okay, I'm going to say, Mary, don't worry. It's not that terrible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not exactly Rankin Bass either.
Yeah. I just want to see a kick-ass Santa. I think
well,
that'd be
this
fun.
is definitely a kick-ass Santa.
Yeah. Okay.
And you get a little bit of Santa's backstory.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Yep. Okay, this next one is from Nicholas Stump. It says, "Merry Christmas, Mary. I hope you Merry Christmas, Nicholas. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy some great Christmas B movies. I plan to watch Santa Claus Conquers the Martians,
Woo!
Santa Claus, and others. Those first two were fun MST3K showings. I enjoyed the Krampus podcast. Please wish Juan Merry Christmas as well." And that was from Nick. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
What's Santa Claus?
It's the Mexican film.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the one that what's his name that brings over all the foreign language films and translates them. I'm trying to remember his name.
Yeah.
Oh God.
I know.
Why am
Starts with a C.
Yeah.
No,
it's Sandy Frank.
No.
No, it wasn't Sandy Frank. It was somebody else.
Sandy Frank did the Japanese stuff.
Yes, he did the Japanese stuff. This is the guy that did all the Spanish language ones.
Murray or
what? Well, somebody Google that while I read this next one.
Okay, you read the next one.
Okay. This next one is from Blake McCurdy. It says, my fave Christmas movie, along with Christmas Evil, and he's talking about Rare Exports. And as of yesterday, Violent Night. Oh, so it's another person liking Violent Night. I've got to see that movie. Okay, anybody Google that thing yet?
Yeah, but it's tough to Google that thing. I suppose I should have just Googled Santa Claus.
Ah, yeah, that would work. On that note, I'm going to read this last piece of email, and it's from Pete Steeman. It says, "Hi, Mary. Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, 2010. He says, I love that movie, and I know about it because of the B-Movie Cast. Yay!
Yay!
I really like your take on Exterminating Angel, too. So thank you, Pete Steeman." Well, thank you, Pete, for writing in.
Yeah, Pete.
And that's the end.
That is the end, my friends.
Yes. Okay. Now I'm thinking of What's-Her-Face singing Cabaret. That's the end,
Yeah.
old friends,
Hey,
What's-Her-Face?
Mary?
I know. I'm just gonna take some.
We're gonna end the podcast now, Mary.
My sinuses.
Hey, Mary, say good night, Mary.
Good night, Mary.
Good night, Mary. And good night, Matt. Thank you for joining us and suggesting this,
guys.
And thank you for another great pick. That was perfect. And come up with another good one. Start making a list.
Well,
and check it twice.
I had mentioned to Mary, actually, in the lead up to this one, there's a Polish werewolf film from the 1980s.
You had me at werewolf.
That's now fairly, relatively easy to get your hands on. Maybe we should think about, covering that sometime in the next couple months.
Ooh.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm down. It's werewolves and it's Polish.
Yes.
Yes.
Get your kibasi ready.
Yeah. No, this is awesome.
Yes. I want to do
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, good talking, guys.
Yeah.
Do
svidaniya. Keep your nose in the wind and your tail to yourself, Matt.
I prefer do svidaniya, but bye.
Yeah. Merry Russian Orthodox Greek Christmas.
Till next time. Bye, guys.
How many times are we going to say goodbye?
I know. Bye.
We're done.
Leaving. We're done. Over.
Cut.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Oh, Matt, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Yes.
I hate to podcast and run, but I have to get up at 4 tomorrow to catch my flight.
Totally understandable. Like I said, it's the week before my classes. I do have to be on campus for a couple meetings tomorrow, so I'm gonna bounce as well. I'll be in touch about the Polish film, maybe.
Yes.
Like March, April, maybe.
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
We'll put it on the schedule for sometime in the next couple of months.
Yes.
Well, I'll look at my spring breaks and maybe we can figure,
Yeah, word up.
Yeah.
In one of those weeks.
Yes.
All right, gang.
Okay.
Night, man.
Night.
Hey, Mary.
What?
Good night.
Good night.
Bye, Mary.
Bye.
Adios, Mafia.
Well, they've gone.
For good, John?
No, just for now. It wasn't the right time for us to meet. But there'll be other nights, other stars for us to watch. They'll be back.
The ghosts are moving tonight, restless, hungry.
All right, fellas, here's your story.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
Wait, Captain. I have found evidence of intelligent beings on this planet.
Look to the skies. It's the B-Movie Cookbook. Menus inspired by 15 of your favorite B-movies from the 1950s, with teenage werewolves, blobs, and enough cheese for everyone.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
But until then, we've got Ed Wood and Vincent Price.
There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
So impress your friends with dinner and a movie with the B-Movie Cookbook. We've got you covered. Get your copy today at bmoviecookbook.com. That's bmoviecookbook.com.
Let me see that book. I am interested to see what sways your mind so heavily.
Sure thing. Just visit bmoviecookbook.com.
Anybody around here want some coffee?
Transmission.
The good guys always win, even in the 80s.